So, talk all day.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ejefo Birisom Tochukwu. For today, I'm coming here to rant. I'm here to basically talk about Odinaani or the Bende culture, tradition, spirituality of a people. So I'm going to be playing a video later, but let's continue the gist first of all. Then when we get to that place, we'll now talk about the main gist gogo. So what is Odinaani and Omenaani? Now these two things are quite different. Odinaani, now look at Odinaani as Ntona Mad. What is those things that God created and instituted it in the land? Odibende, Odinaani, Ntonani. Now Omenaani. Omenaani becomes the cultural practices of a people, while Odinaani becomes the spiritual practices of a people. But we combine these two concepts and we look at it as Odibende, or we also look at it as Omenaani de no Odinaani. Now what does this mean? In Omenaani becomes how. Now Odinaani is saying this thing already exists. The concept of how exists in every Igbo culture. The concept of Chukwu exists in every Igbo culture. The concept of Alasi exists in every Igbo culture. Now the Omenaani becomes how do we interact? How do your community interpret these instituted concepts? You see these two yet they are together. So once you've understood that these two things are different, it becomes a necessity. It becomes a necessity for you to practice Odinaani the way your people practice it. No longer the way people in Anambra practice it. No longer the way the people in Abia practice it. You're from Anambra State. Not just in Anambra, you're from Nnewi or from Nnobi. How do people in Nnobi practice Odinaani? So these are vital questions. And this becomes the reason why you see people leaving the one in their place and go to the one in somebody else's place and participate in their own Odinaani. Now it could be because of a shame. Because for some reason, Odinaani is now being attached to some sort of degradation, some sort of demonization, some sort of a shame. That people don't want to embrace Odinaani. But yet they know that they can seek or get solution through Odinaani. But they do not want to practice it. What they will do is they hide behind the curtains, behind the bottleneck or red tape that we have and practice Odinaani. And these kinds of people end up making unnecessarily yet serious mistakes. Because the way my people are doing things, since it's different from the way you're doing things, it becomes a problem. Now, for instance, here that I see people leaving their own community. I see people leaving their own places to go to other people's community and initiate themselves to that people's alosi, forgetting that every community has their own deity. Every community have their own deity. So some of them don't even seek permission from these deities, the one that is native or indigenous to them. They will go to the one that is in another community and initiate themselves in, forgetting that obodo nwelonso enwerifa na obodo inwenso. My own community, like in Nnewi now, in some part of Anambra, you cannot come there and eat the python. The python is venerated as a sacred animal in my community. In another person's community, it's possible that they don't have this same mindset of conservation or seeing the snake, the python, as a sacred animal. That community could consume or eat the python. Now, when I leave my community and go to another person's community and acknowledge myself with their PowerPoint, it would become a problem for me, especially if that particular deity accepts the sacrifice of an animal that my community refer to it as a sacred animal. I don't know if you understand this, my analogy. So it becomes a problem because that kind of thing would cause something we look at as inseke. It becomes a source of misfortune for you. Something that has been designed to protect your interest will now become a misfortune for you. So you see why it's important that as you are practicing Odinaani, you would have to first of all practice the one that is indigenous to you before going to another person's community to practice the one that is indigenous to them. Now, other things could include kedu ka ndị obodo a si adọtụ chi, kedu ka ndị obodo a si ama chifa. Now, if you've not accepted or if you've not done it the way your people are doing it, you're separating yourself from Odibende. But one thing I know is that Odibende na Luciolo Ike. Now, the disadvantage again that this kind of thing causes it's now that sometimes when you don't know how your people do things, you can be easily scammed by somebody else in another community. Because once the person is doing something for you that you don't understand, you cannot question it because you don't know if it is how they are doing it in their place. So you will just sit down there and waste your money at the end of the day. So this video that I'm going to play now, I'm going to explain it first of all before playing it. So according to the Ezenwani, she is saying that the lady went to somewhere, which I think is in Anambra, because my people in Anambra, what we call Edosu Chino, Itinye Chino Besi. Now we believe that once you're born and after you've been, after the whole creation process, what now happens here is that your chi will now reside outside an entity, outside a power point. You are your chi. Don't forget that. Your chi is you. Don't also forget that. So what Anambra people want to do is you can call your chi. You can acknowledge your chi through the sun. Anyam nezenu. You can do that. But as Anambra, it's important that at the end of the day, you'd have to bring down your chi and institute or consecrate it in an obesi. It becomes a channel for you. So if you want to feed your chi, if you want to give your chi anything, it means that you bring the obesi, the effigy. You bring the effigy and you give it something. It's as if you're interacting with it, you're seeing it, you're interacting with it, you're communicating with it. This is how Anambra people do it. But according to the woman, in their own place, they don't do that. Ndichi is as if you're tying your chi. It's as if you're confining it to a statue. It's as if you're limiting its magnitude to an OAC. That's the Nsoka mentality. So they don't do this ritual of Edonyechi or Edotuchi no OAC. Now what is she now doing? She's bringing the effigies and she's untying them and she's throwing them inside the water, because that's how we dispose things like this. That's how we not dispose, rather that's how we nullify anything that we've consecrated and we said we don't want again. Anatonia na Mary. So what she's doing now is she's untying it. She will untie the, as she says, she's using kola nut to make prayers. And as she's doing it, she's she threw it inside the water. Now she now also made another interesting point. She said something that, because what those two effigies represent is Ikenga Chimmad. Now, there's a lot of debate about Ikenga, a woman owning an Ikenga. Now, Ikenga is regarded as strength, an effigy of strength. Now, they say that Ikenga is a masculine energy. Masculine energy, which also means that it's only the man that should own an Ikenga. Now, I don't personally agree with it, but it's my own personal opinion. But that's just the normal or general norm. So she now said that Ikenga nwani budia. Now we can rationalize it in giving it different interpretations. But that is almost the same thing as saying Ogunwani Budia at the end of the day. But what that thing is representing to Ndi Anambra is that Ikenga Chimada. So what that Ikenga is doing at that point for Ndi Anambra is that the Ikenga gives strength to the woman's chi. I think Ikenga so chimad. Now, a man can also have Ikenga Sochia and also institute an Ikenga. Even deities also have their Ikenga. Sometimes you see it by the side, a different PowerPoint and all these things. They also even have Allison that is different from them, Equinus that is even different from the main deity. So this is why Odibendi is important. So as you're coming into Odinaani, as we are trying to, encourage people to practice Odinaani, we also need to encourage people to do it according to how your community is doing it. Because if you don't do it according to how your community is practicing it, it could become a problem for you in the future, like this woman. You see that they had to untie it. Not that it would eventually become a problem, but who knows? It could actually even be a problem in their community. But Odibendi is extremely important. Now, a person's ancestor cannot be my person's ancestor. That's why that kinds of things cannot work. We have different instituted processes of doing things. Diverse community. So when most times people look at and they generalize Odinaani or they generalize Igbo culture. Well, I look at it as people that are still learning, they're still learning and trying to give interpretations to it. So I'm going to be stopping here. Don't forget to follow me on all my social media. You can follow me on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, and also be a read on my blog www.igboshrine.com. And if you want me to do anything for you this December period, this festive period, you can always send me a message or reach out to me on Instagram. So until next time, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let's keep talking about Igbo spirituality and cosmology. And until next time, guys, yagazie.
Goodbye, no more. Never come Usoroma.
Never come Usoroma.
No, do get up and the buy. Manetta, Nemona dog. No, I moved me and Usoroma. Now, for Muchiachi no post. Must now be King Gachi. No, no, Gabo low. So Niana gave me home. I na Dutch at Don. My molo were by name. Memuja Pariatina. No. Unugba anumo. Ne abem jiwore ya bia. Unufuru lare.
Ndo fuchili.
Ebe ya gbo ojinu. Akpoko omugu. Ọ bụ nwatakịrị nwanne m nwanyị. Bụ Chinenye onye. Eze. Ọ bịara be m. A na-akụzi nkụzi onye nwa na-akụzi onye onu na-akụzi. Na nke a bụ otu esi eme na nke a bụ otu esi eme. Anyị bụ ụsụ ka asadụ gwere ka anyị si eme usoro. Anyị anaghị akpọ ichi n'okposi. Menta no weleterie. So no go by burn. Bumu so terni. Na nta ye wot ni atosha ya.
So
no ndo chi endo lo we na ekegu n'okposo ozo.
So
o ga ya chore mo lo wa ya.
So
Mbe je ri. Asu na bido nta. Asu mo egu nnunu keruchi. Mo chi na ye nwa. Na nta na o le nwe onwe.
So
Unu to ni egbu mma to ni egbu.
So
Ta nwere onwe.
So
Unu biko. Agbo mbe nwa.
So
Unu na ro mbe nwoke.
So
Unu biko.
So
Ne kwa jai di edulete o.
Ikenga nwa bụ nke dị o.
Asu Ikenga nwa bụ die o.
Otu aka ọ dị.
Eso.
Otu a.
Ikenga nwa bụ die.
Otu a ise o.
Ore gali o.
Ise o.
Ore gali ori yomi ifoma te jig mbonu. Hebuye ni uzo.
Ebe onye na-eji m ego na